Introduction to Crisis Counseling. Crisis counseling is a specialized field focused on providing immediate, short-term support to individuals experiencing an acute psychological crisis. A crisis is typically defined as a perception or experience of an event or situation as an intolerable difficulty that exceeds the person's current resources and coping mechanisms. The primary goal is to help individuals regain equilibrium, mitigate the impact of the crisis, and restore their ability to function. This intervention is distinct from long-term therapy, emphasizing rapid assessment and stabilization. Understanding the nature of crisis and the role of the counselor is fundamental to effective practice. The role of a crisis counselor extends beyond mere problem-solving. It involves creating a safe, empathetic space where individuals can process their immediate reactions to overwhelming events. Counselors utilize active listening, validation, and practical strategies to address immediate needs and fears. They help clients identify and mobilize internal and external resources, fostering a sense of hope and control. This initial support can prevent more severe psychological distress and facilitate long-term recovery, making it a crucial component of mental health services. Understanding crisis, types and impact. Crises manifest in various forms, each with unique characteristics and impacts on individuals. Situational crises, such as job loss, divorce, or natural disasters, are often sudden and unexpected, overwhelming an individual's normal coping abilities. Developmental crises, like adolescence, marriage, or retirement, are predictable life transitions that can still trigger significant stress and require adjustment. Existential crises involve profound questions about life's meaning, purpose, and values, often arising from significant life events or personal reflection. Understanding these distinctions helps counselors tailor their approach to the specific needs of the client. The psychological impact of a crisis can be profound and far-reaching, affecting an individual's emotional, cognitive, behavioral, and physical well-being. Common emotional responses include shock, fear, anxiety, sadness, anger, and guilt. Cognitively, individuals may experience confusion, difficulty concentrating, memory problems, or intrusive thoughts. Behaviorally, there might be changes in sleep patterns, appetite, social withdrawal, or increased irritability. Physically, stress responses like headaches, fatigue, or muscle tension are common. Recognizing these diverse impacts is crucial for comprehensive assessment and intervention planning. Theories and models of crisis intervention. Several theoretical frameworks guide crisis intervention, providing counselors with structured approaches to support individuals in distress. Gerald Kaplan's pioneering work on crisis theory emphasizes that crises are time-limited and offer opportunities for growth, focusing on the individual's response to a hazardous event. Albert Roberts' 7-stage crisis intervention model offers a practical, step-by-step guide from assessment to follow-up, ensuring comprehensive care. The ecological model considers the individual within their environment, recognizing how social and systemic factors contribute to and influence crisis experiences. These models provide a foundation for effective and ethical practice. The ABCX model of family crisis, developed by Reuben Hill, explains how families cope with stressful events, considering the stressor event, A, the family's resources, B, and the family's perception of the event, C, all leading to the crisis, X. This model highlights the importance of family dynamics and resources in mitigating or exacerbating a crisis. Cognitive behavioral approaches are also widely used, focusing on identifying and modifying maladaptive thoughts and behaviors that contribute to distress during a crisis. Understanding these diverse models allows counselors to select the most appropriate intervention strategies for each unique situation. Crisis intervention process overview. The crisis intervention process typically follows a structured yet flexible framework to guide counselors in their work. It begins with immediate assessment of the client's situation, including their current emotional state, safety concerns, and immediate needs. Establishing rapport and trust is paramount, creating a safe environment for disclosure. The counselor then explores the precipitating event and the client's perceptions, helping to understand the subjective experience of the crisis. This initial phase is critical for gathering information and building a foundation for support. Subsequent stages involve identifying and exploring possible solutions and coping strategies, empowering the clients to take an active role in their recovery. Developing an action plan, which includes concrete steps and resources, provides a sense of control and direction. Finally, the process concludes with follow-up and termination, ensuring the client has ongoing support and has regained a stable level of functioning. Throughout these stages, the counselor maintains a supportive, non-judgmental stance, adapting interventions to the client's unique needs and cultural context. Assessment in crisis counseling. Thorough assessment is the cornerstone of effective crisis counseling, allowing the counselor to understand the client's immediate situation and identify critical needs. This involves evaluating the client's current emotional and cognitive state, including their level of distress, orientation, and ability to make decisions. Counselors also assess for immediate safety concerns, such as suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation, or self-harm behaviors which require urgent attention. Understanding the precipitating event and the client's subjective experience of it is crucial for tailoring interventions. This rapid yet comprehensive assessment guides all subsequent actions. Beyond immediate safety and emotional state, assessment also involves identifying the client's existing coping mechanisms and support systems. What resources do they have internally and externally? Are these resources currently accessible or overwhelmed? Cultural background and individual strengths are also important considerations, as they can significantly influence how a person experiences and responds to a crisis. A holistic assessment provides a clear picture of the client's vulnerabilities and resilience, enabling the counselor to develop a targeted and effective intervention plan that leverages their strengths. Establishing rapport and trust. Establishing rapport and trust is foundational to any successful crisis intervention. Clients in crisis are often vulnerable, fearful, or disoriented, making a safe and non-judgmental environment crucial. Counselors achieve this by demonstrating genuine empathy, active listening, and unconditional positive regard. Using a calm, reassuring tone of voice and maintaining appropriate eye contact can convey sincerity and presence. Validating the client's feelings and experiences, even if they seem irrational, helps to build a bridge of understanding and acceptance. This initial connection sets the stage for effective communication and collaboration. Trust is not immediately given. It is carefully built through consistent, ethical, and transparent interactions. Counselors must be reliable, follow through on commitments, and clearly communicate the boundaries of confidentiality. Respecting the client's autonomy and pace is also vital, allowing them to share their story when they feel ready. Cultural sensitivity plays a significant role, as trust-building strategies may vary across different backgrounds. A strong therapeutic alliance empowers the client to engage fully in the intervention process, increasing the likelihood of positive outcomes and fostering a sense of security. Active listening and communication skills. Active listening is a critical skill in crisis counseling, enabling counselors to fully understand and respond to the client's immediate needs and emotions. It involves paying complete attention, both verbally and non-verbally, to what the client is communicating. This means not just hearing words, but also observing body language, tone of voice, and unspoken cues, reflecting feelings, paraphrasing content, and summarizing key points demonstrate understanding and validate the client's experience. Avoiding interruptions and judgmental responses is essential to maintain an open and supportive dialogue, fostering an environment where the client feels truly heard. Effective communication extends beyond listening to include clear, concise, and empathetic verbal responses. Counselors use open-ended questions to encourage elaboration and explore deeper feelings, rather than closed questions that elicit simple yes or no answers. Offering reassurance and hope without minimizing the client's distress is crucial for stabilization. Psychoeducation, providing relevant information about crisis reactions or coping strategies, can empower clients and reduce anxiety. Maintaining a calm and steady demeanor, even in highly charged situations, helps to model emotional regulation and provides a sense of stability for the client. Emotional regulation techniques. Clients in crisis often experience intense and overwhelming emotions, making emotional regulation a key component of intervention. Counselors teach practical techniques to help clients manage these feelings in the moment. Deep breathing exercises, such as diaphragmatic breathing, can quickly activate the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting relaxation and reducing physiological arousal. Grounding techniques, which involve focusing on sensory details in the present moment. For example, naming 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, help to reorient individuals who feel detached or overwhelmed. These strategies provide immediate relief and a sense of control. Beyond immediate techniques, counselors also guide clients in identifying triggers for their emotional distress and developing healthier, long-term coping mechanisms. Mindfulness practices, which involve observing thoughts and feelings without judgment, can foster greater emotional awareness and acceptance. Cognitive restructuring helps clients challenge and reframe negative thought patterns that exacerbate distress. The goal is not to suppress emotions, but to experience them in a manageable way, preventing them from becoming overwhelming. Empowering clients with these skills builds resilience and supports their ability to navigate future stresses more effectively. Safety planning and risk assessment. Safety planning and risk assessment are paramount in crisis counseling, particularly when dealing with suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation, or self-harm behaviors. Counselors must conduct a thorough and sensitive assessment of the client's risk level, considering factors such as the presence of the plan, means, intent, and previous attempts. Direct and open questioning about these topics is essential to gather accurate information and demonstrate that the counselor takes these concerns seriously. It is crucial to balance empathy with directness to ensure the client's immediate safety and well-being. This assessment forms the basis for all safety interventions. A safety plan is a collaborative, written document developed with the client to outline steps they can take to keep themselves safe during a crisis. It typically includes identifying warning signs, internal coping strategies, e.g., listening to music, meditation, external coping strategies, e.g., calling a friend, engaging in a hobby, and contact information for support persons and emergency services. Removing access to lethal means is a critical component. The plan is personalized, practical, and easily accessible to the client, serving as a tangible tool for self-protection. Regular review and revision ensure its ongoing effectiveness and relevance to the client's evolving needs. Developing coping strategies. Empowering clients with effective coping strategies is a central aim of crisis counseling, moving them from a state of overwhelm to one of greater control. Counselors help clients identify and strengthen existing healthy coping mechanisms, such as exercise, hobbies, or connecting with loved ones. They also introduce new strategies tailored to the client's needs and preferences. These can include problem-focused coping, which directly addresses the stressor, or emotion-focused coping, which manages the emotional response to the stressor. The goal is to build a diverse toolkit of strategies that clients can deploy when facing future challenges. The process of developing coping strategies is collaborative, ensuring that the strategies are realistic, accessible, and meaningful to the client. It involves exploring potential barriers to using these strategies and problem-solving ways to overcome them. Counselors also emphasize the importance of self-compassion and avoiding maladaptive coping behaviors, such as substance abuse or social isolation. By practicing and reinforcing these skills, clients gain confidence in their ability to navigate difficult situations, fostering long-term resilience and reducing their vulnerability to future crises. This proactive approach supports sustained well-being beyond the immediate crisis. Cultural competence in crisis counseling. Cultural competence is indispensable in crisis counseling, ensuring that interventions are respectful, relevant, and effective for diverse populations. It involves understanding and appreciating the unique cultural backgrounds, values, beliefs, and communication styles of clients. Counselors must recognize that what constitutes a crisis, how distress is expressed, and what coping mechanisms are considered appropriate can vary significantly across cultures. A culturally competent approach avoids imposing Western-centric views and instead seeks to understand the client's experience within their own cultural context. This awareness builds trust and facilitates more effective support. Developing cultural competence requires ongoing self-reflection, education, and humility. Counselors must examine their own biases and assumptions and actively seek to learn about different cultural perspectives. This includes understanding the impact of historical trauma, systemic oppression, and acculturation stress on minority groups, adapting communication styles, involving family or community leaders when appropriate, and utilizing culturally relevant resources are key practices. By demonstrating cultural humility and a commitment to inclusive care, crisis counselors can provide more effective and equitable services, ensuring that all clients receive the support they need in a manner that respects their identity and heritage. Ethical considerations in crisis work. Ethical considerations are paramount in crisis counseling, guiding professional conduct and protecting the well-being of vulnerable clients. Confidentiality is a cornerstone, ensuring that client information is kept private, except in specific circumstances where disclosure is legally mandated or necessary to prevent serious harm. Informed consent requires counselors to explain the nature of the intervention, its limitations, and the client's rights before proceeding. Maintaining clear professional boundaries is essential to prevent dual relationships or conflicts of interest that could exploit the client or impair the counselor's objectivity. These principles uphold the integrity of the counseling relationship. Competence is another critical ethical principle, requiring counselors to practice only within their areas of expertise and to seek supervision or consultation when needed. Counselors must also be aware of their own values and biases and how these might impact their work, striving for objectivity and non-discrimination. Advocacy for clients, particularly those facing systemic barriers, is also an ethical responsibility. When ethical dilemmas arise, counselors are expected to consult professional guidelines, supervisors, and colleagues to make sound, client-centered decisions. Adhering to these ethical standards ensures responsible and effective crisis intervention. Legal aspects of crisis intervention. Crisis counselors operate within a complex legal framework that dictates certain responsibilities and limitations. The duty to warn or duty to protect is a critical legal obligation requiring counselors to breach confidentiality if a client expresses a serious and imminent threat of harm to an identifiable third party. Similarly, mandated reporting laws require counselors to report suspected child abuse, elder abuse, or abuse of vulnerable adults to appropriate authorities. Understanding these legal duties is essential to prevent harm and ensure compliance with the law, even when it means overriding confidentiality. Beyond duties to warn and report, counselors must also be aware of laws regarding involuntary commitment, particularly when a client poses a danger to themselves or others and is unwilling to seek voluntary treatment. Documentation practices are also legally significant. Accurate and timely record keeping protects both the client and the counselor in legal proceedings. Counselors must stay informed about relevant state and federal laws, as these can vary and evolve. Consulting with legal counsel or supervisors when facing complex legal questions is a best practice, ensuring ethical and lawful conduct in all crisis intervention scenarios. Crisis counseling for trauma survivors. Crisis counseling for trauma survivors requires a specialized approach that acknowledges the profound impact of traumatic experiences on an individual's psyche. Trauma can manifest as flashbacks, nightmares, hypervigilance, emotional numbness, and difficulty forming relationships. Counselors must create an exceptionally safe and predictable environment, as survivors often struggle with a sense of safety and control. A trauma-informed approach prioritizes physical and psychological safety, trustworthiness, peer support, collaboration, empowerment, and cultural considerations. It recognizes that symptoms are often adaptive responses to overwhelming events. This understanding guides all interactions. Interventions often focus on stabilization, emotional regulation, and psychoeducation about trauma responses. Grounding techniques are particularly useful for managing flashbacks and dissociation. Counselors help survivors develop coping skills to manage distress without re-traumatization. While crisis counseling is short-term, it can serve as a crucial bridge to longer-term trauma therapy, such as cognitive processing therapy, CPT, or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. The goal is to reduce acute symptoms, restore a sense of agency, and connect survivors with resources for ongoing healing and recovery, fostering resilience in the face of profound adversity. Grief and loss in crisis. Grief and loss are profound human experiences that often precipitate or exacerbate a crisis, requiring sensitive and informed crisis counseling. Loss can encompass not only death, but also significant changes like job loss, relationship endings, or the loss of health or a cherished dream. The grieving process is highly individual and non-linear, often involving a range of intense emotions such as sadness, anger, guilt, and despair. Crisis counselors provide a safe space for clients to express their grief without judgment, normalizing their reactions and validating their pain. This empathetic presence is crucial during acute bereavement. Interventions focus on supporting the client through the immediate emotional intensity of grief and helping them find healthy ways to cope. This includes encouraging self-care, maintaining routines, and connecting with existing support systems. Psychoeducation about the grieving process can help clients understand that their reactions are normal. While crisis counseling is not long-term grief therapy, it can provide crucial stabilization and a bridge to specialized grief support if needed. The goal is to prevent complicated grief reactions and support the client in beginning the long process of adaptation and integration of their loss, fostering resilience amidst profound sorrow. Substance abuse and crisis. Substance abuse can both trigger and complicate a crisis, presenting unique challenges for crisis counselors. Individuals under the influence of substances may have impaired judgment, heightened emotional reactivity, or difficulty communicating clearly. Conversely, a crisis event can lead to increased substance use as a maladaptive coping mechanism. Counselors must first assess the immediate safety of the client, considering the effects of intoxication or withdrawal. Prioritizing de-escalation and stabilization is crucial, as the client's capacity for rational thought may be compromised. This requires a calm, non-confrontational, and patient approach. Interventions involve addressing the immediate crisis while also considering the role of substance use. This may include providing information about detoxification services, harm reduction strategies, or connecting clients with addiction treatment resources. Motivational interviewing techniques can be effective in exploring the client's ambivalence about change and fostering their intrinsic motivation for recovery. Counselors must avoid judgment and focus on the client's immediate needs and safety. While crisis counseling is not addiction treatment, it can serve as a vital entry point for individuals to seek ongoing support for substance use disorders, facilitating a path towards long-term sobriety and stability. Domestic violence and crisis intervention. Domestic violence is a pervasive issue that often brings individuals into crisis, requiring specialized and sensitive crisis intervention. Victims of domestic violence may experience physical injury, psychological trauma, social isolation, and economic dependence, making their situation profoundly complex. Counselors must prioritize the victim's immediate safety, assessing for ongoing threats, and developing a safety plan that may include seeking shelter, obtaining a restraining order, or creating an escape route. It is crucial to believe and validate the victim's experience, as they may have been gaslighted or blamed for the abuse. This validation builds trust and empowers the survivor. Interventions focus on empowering the victim, providing resources, and challenging the cycle of abuse. Counselors offer psychoeducation about the dynamics of domestic violence, helping victims understand that they are not to blame. Connecting clients with domestic violence shelters, legal aid, and support groups is essential for long-term safety and healing. Advocacy plays a vital role in navigating complex systems. Counselors must also be aware of the potential dangers involved in leaving an abusive relationship, as this can be the most dangerous time for a victim. The goal is to support the victim in regaining control over their life and fostering a path towards safety, independence, and recovery. Child and adolescent crisis counseling. Crisis counseling for children and adolescents requires age-appropriate approaches that consider their developmental stage, communication styles, and unique vulnerabilities. Children may express distress through behavioral changes, somatic complaints, or play, rather than verbalizing their feelings directly. Adolescents may exhibit mood swings, withdrawal, or risk-taking behaviors. Counselors must adapt their communication to be simple, direct, and reassuring, using play therapy techniques for younger children and engaging adolescents in more direct, yet non-judgmental conversations. Building rapport with minors often involves patience and creativity, respecting their perspective while also involving guardians. Interventions focus on restoring a sense of safety and predictability, teaching age-appropriate coping skills and involving caregivers. Psychoeducation for both the child, adolescent, and their parents' guardians is crucial, explaining crisis reactions and how to support recovery. Safety planning must be tailored to their developmental level, ensuring they understand and can follow the steps. Connecting families with school resources, community mental health services, and peer support groups can provide ongoing assistance. The goal is to mitigate the immediate impact of the crisis, promote healthy development, and foster resilience in young people, recognizing their unique needs and the importance of their support network. Crisis in educational settings. Crisis in educational settings, such as school shootings, natural disasters affecting the school community, or the death of a student or staff member, require a coordinated and swift response. These events can profoundly impact students, faculty, and the wider community, leading to widespread trauma and distress. Crisis counselors play a vital role in providing immediate psychological first aid, assessing the needs of individuals, and facilitating group interventions. The goal is to stabilize the environment, reduce acute distress, and prevent long-term psychological harm. Collaboration with school administration, teachers, and parents is essential for an effective response. Interventions often include debriefing sessions for groups of students and staff, individual counseling for those most affected, and psychoeducation about common reactions to trauma. Creating a safe and predictable school environment post-crisis is paramount, restoring a sense of normalcy and routine. Counselors also help identify students who may be at higher risk for developing long-term issues and connect them with ongoing mental health support. Developing and implementing a comprehensive school crisis plan, including prevention, response, and recovery phases, is crucial for preparedness. This proactive approach ensures that schools are equipped to support their community through challenging times, fostering resilience and healing. Community crisis response. Community crisis response involves a coordinated effort to address large-scale events such as natural disasters, public health emergencies, or mass violence. These crises impact entire populations, leading to widespread trauma, displacement, and disruption of essential services. Crisis counselors are integral to these efforts, providing psychological first aid, emotional support, and resource connection at community shelters, aid centers, or affected neighborhoods. The goal is to reduce collective distress, facilitate recovery, and strengthen community resilience. This requires collaboration with emergency services, government agencies, and non-profit organizations. Interventions often include providing psychoeducation to large groups, facilitating support groups, and identifying individuals at high risk for prolonged distress. Cultural sensitivity is paramount in community response, as diverse populations may have unique needs and coping mechanisms. Counselors also play a role in advocating for affected communities, ensuring access to mental health services and long-term recovery resources. The long-term recovery phase focuses on rebuilding social networks, restoring a sense of normalcy, and addressing ongoing mental health needs. A well-coordinated community crisis response mitigates the immediate impact and supports the collective healing process, fostering a stronger, more resilient community in the aftermath of adversity. Working with emergency services. Effective crisis counseling often involves close collaboration with emergency services, including police, paramedics, and firefighters. These first responders are frequently the first on the scene of a crisis, dealing with immediate physical threats and medical emergencies. Crisis counselors can provide invaluable support by offering psychological first aid to victims and witnesses, de-escalating emotionally charged situations, and assisting emergency personnel in managing the psychological impact of traumatic events. Understanding the roles and protocols of emergency services is crucial for seamless integration and effective teamwork. This interdisciplinary approach ensures comprehensive care. Counselors can also provide critical incident stress management (CISM) services to emergency responders themselves, who are routinely exposed to highly traumatic events. Debriefing sessions, individual support, and peer support programs help mitigate the effects of secondary trauma and burnout among first responders. Building strong working relationships with emergency services facilitates referrals, improves communication, and enhances the overall effectiveness of crisis response. This collaborative model recognizes that addressing both physical and psychological needs is essential for holistic recovery, ensuring that all individuals involved in a crisis receive appropriate and timely support. Self-care for crisis counselors. Working in crisis counseling is inherently demanding and can expose counselors to vicarious trauma, burnout, and compassion fatigue. Prioritizing self-care is not a luxury, but an ethical imperative to maintain professional effectiveness and personal well-being. Self-care involves intentional practices that promote physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. This includes adequate sleep, healthy nutrition, regular exercise, and engaging in hobbies or activities that bring joy and relaxation. Recognizing the signs of burnout, such as emotional exhaustion, cynicism, and reduced personal accomplishment, is the first step towards intervention. Developing a personalized self-care plan is crucial, incorporating both daily practices and longer-term strategies. This might include setting clear boundaries between work and personal life, seeking supervision or peer support, engaging in mindfulness or meditation, and taking regular breaks or vacations. It is important for counselors to acknowledge their own humanity and vulnerability, understanding that they cannot pour from an empty cup. By consistently practicing self-care, crisis counselors can sustain their capacity for empathy, maintain professional competence, and continue to provide high-quality support to those in need, ensuring longevity in a challenging but rewarding field. Supervision and professional development. Supervision and ongoing professional development are indispensable for crisis counselors, fostering continuous learning, ethical practice, and personal growth. Supervision provides a structured opportunity to discuss challenging cases, receive feedback, explore ethical dilemmas, and process the emotional impact of crisis work. It helps counselors refine their skills, gain new perspectives, and ensure they are adhering to best practices. Regular supervision is a protective factor against burnout and vicarious trauma, offering a safe space for reflection and support. It is a cornerstone of responsible and effective professional practice, ensuring accountability and quality of care. Professional development involves actively seeking opportunities to expand knowledge and skills through workshops, conferences, advanced training, and reading current research. Staying informed about new theories, intervention techniques, and legal, ethical guidelines is crucial in an evolving field. Specializing in areas like trauma-informed care, grief counseling, or disaster response can enhance a counselor's expertise. Engaging in peer consultation and networking with other professionals also contributes to growth. A commitment to lifelong learning ensures that crisis counselors remain competent, adaptable, and capable of providing the highest quality of care to diverse client populations, ultimately benefiting both the counselor and those they serve. Documentation in crisis counseling. Thorough and accurate documentation is a critical aspect of crisis counseling, serving multiple purposes beyond simply record keeping. It provides a clear, chronological account of the client's crisis, the interventions provided, and the client's response, which is essential for continuity of care. Well-maintained records facilitate communication among healthcare providers, ensuring a comprehensive and coordinated approach. Documentation also serves as a legal and ethical safeguard, protecting both the client and the counselor by providing evidence of professional conduct and adherence to standards of care. It is an indispensable tool for accountability and quality assurance. Effective documentation includes key elements such as the client's presenting problem, risk assessment findings, e.g., suicidal ideation, safety plan, intervention strategies used, client's progress, referrals made, and any follow-up plans. Entries should be objective, factual, and timely, avoiding subjective interpretations or personal opinions. Maintaining confidentiality and adhering to privacy regulations, such as HIPAA, are paramount when creating and storing records. Regular training on documentation best practices ensures that counselors meet professional standards and legal requirements, ultimately enhancing the quality and safety of crisis intervention services. This meticulous record-keeping is a professional obligation. Termination and follow-up. The termination phase in crisis counseling marks the conclusion of the immediate intervention, occurring when the client has achieved a stable level of functioning and can manage their situation effectively. This phase is carefully planned and discussed with the client, ensuring a smooth transition. It involves reviewing the progress made, reinforcing coping strategies learned, and acknowledging the client's strengths and resilience. Termination is not merely an ending, but an opportunity to consolidate gains and empower the client for future challenges. It is crucial to process any feelings the client may have about ending the counseling relationship, such as sadness or anxiety. Follow-up is an essential component of crisis intervention, providing a check-in to ensure the client maintains stability and continues to utilize their coping skills. This may involve a phone call, email, or a brief follow-up session a few days or weeks after termination. The purpose is to assess for any re-emerging distress, offer additional support if needed, and connect the client with longer-term resources if appropriate. Follow-up demonstrates ongoing care and reinforces the client's sense of support, preventing relapse into crisis. It ensures that the gains made during crisis counseling are sustained, promoting lasting well-being and continued recovery. Future trends in crisis counseling. The field of crisis counseling is continuously evolving, driven by technological advancements, changing societal needs, and emerging research. Telehealth and digital platforms are becoming increasingly prevalent, expanding access to crisis services for individuals in remote areas or those facing mobility challenges. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are being explored for early detection of crisis risk and for providing initial automated support, though human oversight remains critical. These technological innovations offer new avenues for reaching and supporting individuals in distress, transforming how crisis intervention is delivered and accessed globally. Beyond technology, future trends include a greater emphasis on preventative measures and community-based resilience building. Integrating mental health support into primary care settings and schools aims to identify and address issues before they escalate into full-blown crises. A focus on collective trauma and culturally responsive interventions will continue to grow, recognizing the impact of large-scale events and diverse cultural contexts. The field will likely see increased specialization, interdisciplinary collaboration, and a stronger evidence base for various intervention strategies. These developments promise to make crisis counseling more accessible, effective, and tailored to the complex needs of individuals and communities worldwide.